Okay, I have 9 o'clock.
All right.
If we could call the meeting to order. Deborah, roll call, please.
Certainly. Ring,
Here.
Lau,
Here.
Castile,
Here.
Singh,
Here.
Star, here, and her.
Here.
Okay, next is the minutes from the April 22nd, 2025 meeting. Any changes? Seeing none, they are approved. Deborah, anything for member forum?
We have no resident forum speakers.
Okay. I don't have any announcements. Jeff?
Just a couple. Wanted to recognize and thank Mary Hurt, who is the current treasurer for RWC. And this is her last meeting after 5 years of service to the committee, but will still be continuing on in the role of secretary for RWC. And then welcome back to Adrian Byram, who has been on this committee for a lengthy period of time, but now will be joining the committee as a board member and in the role of treasurer. And then welcome to our two new board members, Janet Selden and Susan Hildreth. The other, just a quick update, a bit of good news. We received notice from PG&E that they have energized the solar project out in the parking lot here. We received the approval from the city, and then the last final step was approval from PG&E. So we are generating electricity as of about a week and a half ago. So that's a good step in that process. So
That's it? Okay, Todd, you're next.
Hey, all right. So a lot to talk about this morning. First of all, just to kind of set the stage again, just so we all kind of know, but obviously for Janet and Susan, just to welcome to the Finance Committee meeting. You know, all of our energies has been to put out the mutual financials and get those all up and going and current. And I'm happy to say that all mutual financials were delivered through April. That's a good start. So that's great. It's a big hurdle, great accommodation of my team for the really heavy Herculean effort to get that to a place where we can now focus on report writing, focus on KPIs, cleaning up the report writings. Obviously the financials that came out, we still have some work to do on, there were some fixes we need to do on the aging reports and a couple other things. And then obviously for everyone here, you know, we're still gonna have the final balance sheet issues until we, you know, complete 24 and load the final trial balance in, right? So the balance sheet and the cash flow statements will be forthcoming. Those two documents are not part of technically the 5500 compliance certification, but certainly they are meaningful and we want to produce a very robust set of financials. So those will be forthcoming once we can close off 24 in its entirety, right? So no surprise there, you know, no reason to keep loading incomplete data.
Todd, would you remind me of the timing of that?
Yeah, so end of June, we should have our final GRF audit and all the mutual audits are, even though they're not right on track for April 30th, they are all within probably 30 days of living back from the auditors on draft reports. So completely different from where we've been, not where I want to be yet. But they're, you know, for example, First Mutual we're just waiting for Cheryl and her team to come back with, you know, we have done all our part. So everything's sitting with the auditors now for most of them. So we are ahead of that game. So I'm looking to end of June for certainly for the GRF portion, right? And then the mutuals will, as we get those, it won't be, you know, we'll be able to load their balances as we get them, right? So it's not like we're gonna just wait till we get them all. We'll finish them as soon as we get those audit adjustments and we'll put them into GenArc and then load those new balances into NetSuite. So just a lot of great stuff happening. So with that, obviously we're finally able to switch our attention to, and I'm gonna just apologize right now. We are not in my department yet on the name changing convention. everything is in GenArc, it's still GRF and MOD. So you're gonna have to just bear with the GRF MOD for the near term when we look at financials and accounts. We're not at a priority to go change all of our chart of accounts and naming conventions in our financial system, so that's it. So with that, let's just jump in. So we were able to complete all of Q1. Obviously, once we have done that, there's a lot of, that process includes from an accounting standpoint, a lot of the automating, a lot of the journal entries, the amortization schedules, you know, the mapping and integration of the payroll journals. So there's a lot that has to do with setup and fine tuning. But now going forward, it'll be a lot, you know, obviously the close process. As we continue to move forward, will be streamlined, quicker, and more efficient than it's ever been. Just, you know, it takes a while to get there. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and jump into NetSuite, and I will make it bigger for everyone here in just a second. So we can all see it. Bear with me. Back one. Okay. So I'm gonna just give everyone a little bit of an overview. So certainly unlike previous GenArc systems. So what we're looking at here, and I think this is a better, deeper dive for the finance committee. You know, obviously we have a lot of parent-child relationships. So what we're looking at here is the income statement for the GRF. So down here, you'll see I have selected the Golden Rain Foundation Division. This is a summary level of the income statement. But the really cool thing, as we've all talked about within this, if I was to expand, for example, recreational revenue, and I'm just gonna do this really quick just for one, then we can look at the results. I can get into, let's say, excursion collections. I can see this journal entry. Right. Give it a second. I can then go down and look at communication on this document. I can go down and then look at files, and I can look at the actual credit card receipts and everything that went in.
That's very cool.
Went into everything that is posted to that, so I'm gonna.
That would have been hours of work if someone had a question on that you just did in 30
Hours,
seconds.
30
Yeah.
seconds,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and he's a senior manager.
Yeah.
Depending on anybody else.
Yeah,
So this is the, it should come up here.
you got all of us excited over
Yeah,
there.
okay. So this is, so just to share the screen, this is
Jealous.
this is now the, let me make this bigger. This is now the detail of that file. So I can quickly look at, for example, on this transaction, it pulls up where the part of that went to this. I can scroll down and I can look at the posting, I can look at all the revenue, I can then actually see every part of each run of credit card as it came through on this, all the way down, obviously there's a page of this, right? So this is a game changer, and I know we've talked about it a little in the past, but I now have the ability, because one of the things we've never really effectively able to do is Amanda and our team has really done a lot of their, 9% of their effort, you know, is the transactional processing versus actually doing some of the review and analytics, right? And so this tool gives us the ability now to have bandwidth to start looking at tools and analytics. And even in this meeting, as we start streamlining thresholds and looking at things, if there's a question, I now have the NetSuite online. And so instead of saying, I'll get back to you, we can actually just drill down into that charge and if there was a question on it, right? So super powerful, and it's really, you know, night and day difference from where we have been. So let me go back to.
Here, I had a question.
So Todd, when you
Yeah.
say analytics, can you go in a little bit into what kind of analytics you can do, what kind of functional processes?
Well, I think the reality is, if let's say we wanted to, you know, first analytics is just, let's say just the review, you know, does it pass the accuracy and, you know, test? Is it validated? You know, are we missing something? So when we look at something, for example, we'll see if I feel something that's over or under budget, I can drill in, I can see if we're missing a water bill. There should have been a water bill posted in March and it wasn't posted, right? Because we're talking about tons and tons of thousands and thousands of transactions, but you can quickly see if there's a variance. You can quickly just drive into that variance and say, oh, okay, we just had lower water usage. Okay, it's that check. In terms of actually creating some of the actual KPIs and analytics within the system, we are moving to be able to do some of that internally, but we've been able to set like variance thresholds that we talked about, look at things that are over under budget, and we'll get into the budget report here in just a minute and I'll show you how that works. So, all right, so let's just get back to the results here real quick. So this is, like I said, once again, this is, let me go back. Okay, so this is, and we'll have, it's really easy to, for example, when we get to the, when you'll get to the board, you know, I can just really quickly, you can see that it's super simple now to go in here and produce, you know, a PDF of that report that's, you know, printable, easier to read. We can save it. We'll be working on how we script these reports and put out packages now so we can actually distribute these ahead of time, you know, make it more effective. So then if you had questions on the finance committee on certain ones of these categories before we actually get any type of view access, you can highlight them. And like you just saw right now, you know, we talked about this committee about maybe trying to do a deeper quarterly dive, right? So this would be an opportunity right now for us to look at Q1 and to say, hey, how are we going to do maybe a deeper dive looking at Q1 variances to say, you know, what, you know, versus the monthly ongoing stuff and do a little bit deeper dive in this committee. Obviously, today we're just, you know, my team spent all weekend getting these finished, so I haven't done a deep dive reviewing them yet, but we did do the top level. You know, they look pretty good. Okay, so yeah, go ahead, Kim.
So, I mean, this looks really fabulous. Thank you. So are there reports in here? So for example, if we just look at the quarter, is the quarter, are we going to be able to compare budget to actual and also prior year? Is that information?
So prior
that's
year
gonna be in there?
prior year will be there right now, but we're kind of waiting till all the balances are finished. So we do have trial balances.
But it is coming.
It is, and we have trial
of-
balances loaded from 2021.
Oh,
But they're
that's
not obviously at the detail level. They're at the.
right, because you don't have that.
Right. So going forward, you know, we're obviously building on that.
Great.
Okay, so real quick, if we want to just to your question, this is the monthly P&Ls, right? So as and I apologize for having to shrink this a couple times, but unfortunately without my resolution, I can't get into some of these bottom menus with it zoomed. So down here, obviously under accounting period, this is where we can spread by, you know, what we want in terms of different functionalities, look at different bank accounts. But let's just go to reports to your question, because I want to take today to look at the GRF and MOD budget to actual. So this is like the monthly P&L, right? We can spread that P&L, and then going forward, we'll have obviously the total is the year to date, and we're just going to keep adding another month. So next month you'll see, you know, we'll have actually April before next month. I mean, April will be forthcoming here pretty quickly. And you'll see that now we'll have April. So as we build this, you'll see every month as it grows to a year to date. So if we go down to banking and budgeting, for example, we go to budget to actual, you can see how quick it's really just one click. And then you could select whatever period you wanted. So if you wanted to look at, you could spread this by every month as well and see where those variants came from. It gets a little busy, but just for this conversation today, you know, we can look at straight down. Oh, sorry, let me make this bigger. No. Okay. Might be one too big for the screen. Okay. So this
One more
is.
question real quick.
Yeah, go
Are
ahead.
you going to share these reports with us
Yes.
before the
Yes.
meeting? So we
Yes.
haven't, okay.
Yeah, just, they were ready this morning around 8, so.
It's all good.
It wasn't, yeah,
It's all good.
didn't quite get there in time, but I had tremendous teamwork this weekend. So, and then, you know, obviously down here, we have the ability just to collapse this. And so depending on, you know, like a summary level, right, we can just look at a summary level here. Then you could open up any one you wanted. So I mean, so obviously we can see here that to budget, we're way ahead of budget right now.
That net income is, after your top level review is correct?
Mhm,
Wow.
mhm. It's mostly on the expense side. And like I said, I still need to go through
Yep.
all this in detail. Obviously, we know there's gonna be insurance savings. And then obviously, depending on what we've put into budget. So for example, if you look at utilities, this is one of the questions I had. We're way down on water usage to bad, that's 132,000, so I have to validate that we're not missing a bill. Amanda did a first cursory look at this, and it looks like it's all there. It's actually based on lower usage, but that's one of the areas that quickly I can now drill into, and we're, you know, as I go through this to see, okay, is that really valid, and is our power really, gas, electricity really up? So, you know, where things like wasteful. So this is where we can say, oh, these budget variants are too much. And these were where we'd flag that further analysis to dig into that to make sure that we are through Q1, have an explanation on those larger variants to put these charges in context. And then, so if you then look at, you can flip over here to, again, I apologize for having to shrink this, but the coolest thing about this is down here, this is where, you know, I can immediately just switch to MOD, and all I have to do is refresh one button, and then I'm right here with MOD. I can also do now consolidated GRF across the trust, MOD, and so compared to like audited statements where they do combined financials, we weren't able to ever do that really before in GenArc, so now I can do combined financials too to compare it to the audit. So yeah, Ted. Oh, let me make this bigger, sorry.
So you were talking, before we got all into this, by the way, this is amazing.
Mhm.
So you, seasonal, is this reflecting seasonal because it showed the variance in the water situation? So this is, you kind of broke it down.
But I think those are some of the things we need to go back and check. Did that seasonality get loaded correctly? You know, and as we now move into, when I get to the NetSuite update, when we move into workday planning, you know, how I'm being able to further refine. I mean, I think you'll see 2026 in the budget process here, really refine that seasonality and really work with Arun and his team on the reserve spends as well by mutual, I mean, not so much on the GRF side, but really we're going to continue to go like really have assumptions on that seasonality by every, you know, count. So we can say this is a linear 12-month spread, this is quarterly, this is individual months, this is based on historical averages, right? We can go through and put those a lot of those parameters already built into the financial tool. It's more like selecting them. And as we build
Amanda just contradicted you.
She did?
Yes. And we all saw it. She said seasonality has not been built in.
That's for next
I
year.
saw
No, for next year, I said.
Oh, for next year it said?
Well, we built seasonality into the mutual budgets.
But it's
For water and
used to do
power.
seasonality, I believe, where it's
Yeah.
kind of just broken up
Yeah.
over, that's why water would be extremely low right
Mhm.
now.
Right.
In the future, we'll be able to do
So-
more with that.
Yeah, sometimes I'm wearing a mutual hat versus a GRF hat. So.
Can you just go down on this one, just so we can see the bottom line?
Mhm. So this is it. So obviously we're above budget. Budget was basically break even, and we're just trending a little higher. So
It's mainly in expenses.
yeah, and we know that then.
Negative is good on expenses. What's yours?
Yeah, it depends on which bucket you're looking at, right? You gotta get your, yeah, amount over budget. So if it's a positive amount over budget, it means you're spending more.
Negative numbers.
Negative means
numbers,
you're
good.
spending less.
So some of the
But we're not gonna get
76
into the, the
Yeah.
internal reports of trying to flip the variance.
Are you able to flip the variance?
Yeah, but not by category, it gets really confusing, you know, if you have a revenue variance different than an expense variance. But like I said, there's a lot of report formatting and refinement we're gonna do on how these reports read, the readability of them.
So when do you think you'll feel, let's say, I'm gonna make some assumptions. I'm assuming you're at 90% comfort level now, 85, 90. When-
85.
Okay, when do you think you'll get to the 100%
I
comfort
think
level?
once I have now the numbers to truly review, I would say in the next 45 days, I'll be there, once I see April's, and I can go through all of them in kind of my own detail.
Okay,
I think I'll be very comfortable.
so that's question one. And then two, I'm assuming this comes with standard KPIs.
Mhm.
Are there standard KPIs in that suite?
Right, we need to, right, those are, but we need to really explore this utilization of those and
Right, so
how they exist.
I think this committee needs to think about what they want to see in addition to this statement. What KPIs or what information is important to them? And what do you think they want to see that on an ongoing basis that would give us the analytic tool we need to, in this situation? Not today, let's put it on all our homework for all of us to think about what we want to see in the next 2-3 months to get them up and running on things that we want to see.
Yeah, so I've personally been waiting to build my own dashboard, right? So if you were to look at my home screen, this is basically a standard, this is just what was given to me. And I haven't really played around with it because of, I haven't had the data to refine, so don't look at any of the numbers right now because this is confused because of all our parent-childs, it's pulling kind of everything in. But Dan, to some of your thoughts, so some of these things like some of those ratios and some of these other things, I'm gonna fine tune this report and be able to, obviously in the financial operations, have the cash tied to here. I'll be able to have, a lot of the metrics tied into my dashboard. And then from these dashboard, you can drill into the underlying details well. So now that we have the actual financials built, I'm gonna build out my dashboard because one of the things for this committee probably should start with is once that dashboard is built, we can start looking at that. Not that we don't look at the income statements, we look at the income, the cash flow, the balance sheet. But then we can look at this and start working to what that dashboard looks like for this committee, right? And I can create a dashboard for the finance committee, right? So.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah, and I think we need one for the board and.
Yeah.
Generally, right?
Right.
The finance committees for these little more detailed, but we really need to think about how do we communicate our results to the general community.
Mhm.
I mean, there's one number up there, for example, the current ratio. Probably, but I mean, that is really a measure of our health. People don't understand that. We never really reported it, but it's, there are others like that. And I feel like everybody on this committee, you guys are all professionals of this, academia, to large companies, to finance, et cetera. So I really want everybody to think about this and think about how we can adjust it. And we'll probably spend the next 3, 4, or 5 months.
Yeah.
Modifying it,
Yeah.
each time we can get there.
Yep.
So Todd, what kind of graphic capability does NetSuite have?
You can take any,
Anything in graphic?
yeah,
So you could click on current ratio and draft the current ratio for the last 6 months.
Yeah.
This is
and then
gonna be
also
fun.
Workday comes with its own set of graphics. So as we mirror what's in the GL into Workday, right? Workday is also be one of the tools we're gonna use for those metric
What
reports.
is Workday?
Yeah.
So Workday will take all this data, but it'll put it into the forward-looking model. So NetSuite, we have a budget in here, but NetSuite is not where we build a business plan. It's not where we build long-term balance sheet forecasts. It's not where we're gonna do the long-term budgeting. Budgeting does not, we're gonna import a budget into NetSuite to do budget actuals for current period. But Workday, when we turn that on in July, has tremendous reporting capabilities. So there's gonna be, this committee will find a balance between what we use out of NetSuite and what we use out of Workday for our tools to guide the ship, right? So.
Todd, question. Have your department been feeling the benefits of this new tools yet? They still under a lot of pressure.
Give them a little bit more.
Yeah.
Having worked all weekend.
I will say, they see the benefit, right? So a lot of we've got through a lot of the hurdles. And so there's like, for example, on the bank rec side, right? Having this generated bank recs from, being able to bring that, import those versus doing it manual. They see all that. They see now that we've got a lot of the automatic, journal entries as we move into the purchase order side and start utilizing those. So I would say, Alice, the vision is there. They see it. I think we've turned the corner. I think now we have to, kind of just finalize the processes we're using and then turn our viewpoint into the report writing and how we streamline that, because that's a painful piece of it right now. So for like with the mutuals this last month, it's great that it's all here, but to create a financial deck for the mutuals, you're talking about 40 sets of financials. So it's 800 reports you're downloading and saving. So that's not really efficient, right? It's almost, but just we need to now script all those reports, but we didn't have the reports we were going to use because the reports have to be kind of written and, so under like the save searches in here under reporting, let's see, that's one. So, NetSuite's canned reports are really good, but when it comes to our use, right? So for example, AP history and payment by month, right? So this is a customer report for a mutual 5500 certification that basically is our check register, right? Which is AP history. So now that we created this report and it works, we now need to script it so it's produced as part of a package. We can run a package report. So that's kind of the next efficiency gain.
Yes, eventually, we hope that they will benefit from the efficiency. It may be a little early, but have we heard any feedback from the mutuals?
They just got their full deck. I think they're very overwhelmed. So I would say, kind of, even with the, where we create this new package for the GRF board, they're used to looking at it in a certain way. I think the financials are actually cleaner. I think the summary report from me and how that's written is gonna change a little bit. So I think, we even had a request from certain mutuals to kind of have outside their board meeting session to kind of work through the statements and, and how they read them. And it'll just be an ongoing collaborative process because we still have some work to do on the aging side and once again on the trial and the final balances for 24. And I think once we get the balance sheets, I think it'll kind of come together. So, but obviously getting caught up through April, it's a lot of data. And I think the challenge is the same things we're talking about here with the financial dashboard and the report is exactly what needs to happen with the mutuals for their treasuries, for the treasurers, right? There needs to be a dashboard that's created for mutual financial health.
One of the benefits I'm thinking ahead of, that this will be easily in use by the time we do budgets, because this will make a big difference when we're thinking about the future year to have it presented this way, I think.
Yeah, and like I said, when I have a chance here, it might be my earliest, probably next month, finance, I'll go ahead and carve out 15 minutes of this meeting to show everyone Workday and show the other side of that, the other side of this piece, and how we're gonna utilize that, because it's a great tool.
Remind me when we do the budget for next year.
Well, we really started, it's July and August, it's right around the corner. We need to get them out in November, after Thanksgiving, yeah.
Just from my perspective, one important thing is to get to the point where we're actually doing forecasts, because variance can be one thing, but what difference does that make? What does it indicate about the trends for the future? How will, it'll just give us a better handle on, dealing with issues before it comes to budget.
Yeah, and so I would like to think pretty quickly here, as soon as I really turn on Workday, so let's say July, the idea would be, is that every day is a budget day. So we've never, to your point, show part of the board package should be, okay, it's now we've closed July, here's what we're forecasting for year end. right? So that it's not just, oh, here's what we've done January through June, and we're gonna double it, right? And then, you know, that I always say the concept of terminal velocity. As we get closer and closer to the year end, we're gonna be able to affect less and less change, right? So if we keep now refining that forecast, you know, every month, then we're gonna show that forecast every month. And we have some assumptions behind what's going into that forecast. Maybe it's the rest of the budget, or it's also looking what's spent, and it's just the remaining budget allocated. So we're not gonna go over budget. So those are the kind of also tools in Workday. So when we show that, we'll start actually doing that real-time forecasting for the year end. And then more importantly, we'll get to the point where we're gonna take the 26 budget, and even if we make slight rate increase assumption stuff, we'll actually have not just a P&L forecast, but we'll also have the cash flow that ties to that and the balance sheet that ties to that.
So I guess the confusing part for me is when something like we say forecast.
Yeah.
What kind of methodology is it using to do the forecast? Because there's so many ways to forecast data.
Yeah, I mean, you really have to go line by line and see where the revenues come in and expenses have gone out. And if you know, you're either on or off budget because of, you know,
Total savings or just timing and then, yeah.
you know, it's either act of God stuff, we didn't know about it, it's timing issues that we had expenses that came in either current month or delayed, or we were just off on our assumption, right? And so you don't change the budget, but you certainly will change your assumption for the year end, so you can start saying, hey, you know what, we did not estimate this correctly, and we're gonna have a 5%, you know, overage on this line item, or we're running high on admin supplies and we need to cut it back. You know, look at like overtime for, you know, in here for example, my staff that's been putting in overtime for this whole project, right? So, we're gonna turn the corner and that overtime is gonna start coming back down, but maybe we didn't budget enough for it, right? We're gonna use that in the forecast too. So we actually have, and then it's, you know, it's up to this group to kind of look at it and.
So once you do all this and you can do your analysis and you can say, okay, this is a permanent savings or whatever, is there an opportunity in the reporting for you to put footnotes? So that as you figure this out and then we can review it rather than waiting for this meeting, but
Right,
it's
right.
all
And
possible,
also
great.
in budget, if you spend 2,000 for the first 6 months and your budget is 100,000, you know, we always question that 18 zillion times. That's 90% of the questions. If you can put that footnote, in December, we have this for $95,000, we all just say, okay, and move on. That would really, I can see that just smoothing a lot of stuff.
I mean, I think, you know, obviously when we get to, you know, as soon as we get to finish this corner and get back to finances being done on the 15th and distribute the GRF MOD finances to this group, right? That's usually a week or so. We can publish those, get back ahead of the curve, and then I can look at them and issue, right, a commentary that has notes against it.
Jeff, is this the last year of the audit proposal? Is next?
With our current auditor?
Yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah, because I see this being a huge savings on the audit side too.
You're doing a lot of their work for them.
But it's gonna
If
do.
you could put that information in
Yeah,
there.
we'll tell them
And they may not believe you, they may not come down enough, but okay.
Yeah.
Do you still have the cash sheet with you?
Yeah, we're gonna be working on the April cash sheet, but obviously we looked at the March cash. I'll have the cash for
Okay.
Thursday.
Yeah, I've mentioned in the past, giving recognition to your staff. And I don't know what you think is appropriate and what they would most appreciate. Certainly I can, you know, I want them to know the finance committee certainly appreciates their efforts. But if we could, would they appreciate a luncheon or come to visit them, or they can give us presentations so they have a chance to get visibility with the board?
Yeah, let me think of that. I think
Yeah,
that's
think of what they,
fantastic.
just what they would like. What I think they might like might not be what they like. They might just rather have a day off or, you know?
I know, I felt a lot like, you know, the movie Airplane. I know it's dating myself, but he keeps going, we're all counting on you, and shuts the door. I feel like I'm doing that a lot.
Yeah, so please think about that and
Yeah,
let us know
great.
how we can
Yeah.
support you on that.
Yeah, it really is fantastic. I mean, I am so happy to be able to, you know how nice it is to sit at my desk and be able just to dig into numbers and look at a number, and we couldn't do any of this before.
And all the senior managers already have training on this, like Jeff
No,
could go
because we
in
haven't had the
and-
data. I mean,
They're anxious.
they're anxious.
Cannot wait.
But, you know, the-
And just so we're clear, Jeff will only have
Limited.
limited access, only read only.
Read only, they will all have read only. We have held off just because, a lot of the reports that they want to look at that we needed to write, plus we needed to get all that data in there, right? So having them been trained in the sandbox with wrong data doesn't really help. And you know, if you look at, you know, just the reality of NetSuite and, you know, like if you look at my environment, right, you can get into here and, you know, under the reports, you can get lost and you can run reports that are, if you don't understand, like for example, on this one here, if you were to, this is a simple example, right? So if we look at how our parent-child's working, and I go down here to more, I can actually select because of the mutuals funds. And the way NetSuite writes, if you run a report, let's say you run an income statement, it's gonna pull up the same filters that your last time you ran it. Okay, so if you don't recheck your filters, so for example, right, we use a default account versus the fund management on the mutual. So if you were, for example, ran an income statement, which I do on mutuals, which I do all the time, and I didn't have this visible and didn't know that it was an operating and I refresh it, right, it's just gonna show no data available, or it's gonna show something that looks really broken, right? So that kind of training needs to be rolled out, that because there's a lot in the filters, you know, so for on the GRF side and a lot of just staff versus, you know, where Arun is more versed because of all the mutuals, because it's all in one system now, right? You can get lost between looking at GRF if you don't know, you know, even on the GRF side down here, because we have fairly complex structure, you know, you wouldn't know if you were to run some of these, like the elimination parents and all this stuff, you know, that. So if you look at the cool thing is, like, for example, we go back to this, you know, we also still do have the, you know, for example, here's the trust, right? Not a lot happens on the trust, but you can look at the revenue for here and you can see that it's the interest income you're making and the loan interest we're posting. So, right, so we can look at the trust activity, and then, like I said, we can quickly go to the very top. You can go to consolidated all entities, and it really is 2 clicks to now look at a combined all accounts, full GL of our combined entity. So, right, so.
Can you save reports and put a name on them?
Yeah.
So that, you know, Arun or whoever knows what they want
Yeah.
to see every month,
Yeah,
they can
so
just go in and get
It's
it.
really easy. So under save reports, you will see down here, there's some that are, all these are written, and I can write reports. So for example, Kim, if I, let's say, we'll go back to, let's look at income statement operating. Okay, so this would be a standard mutual report. I wouldn't use this report for GRF because it's looking at just the operating fund, because I show reports both on the operating and the reserve side. So this is just an operating fund. And if I was go to customize, and I would go up in here and I would say more options where this is for saved, right? I can also say that roles, I can uncheck that. So if I create a report that's just for me, only my incident will see that report, right? If I want to push that report out to everyone that has, or I can select individuals that can see that report. So that's what we're going to do eventually with the view. We're going to be able to select who sees certain reports, and I can publish this report that I write to the whole net group or just certain people in the group, right? And I can have my own report just for what I'm doing. And then I can take that report and I can immediately put it into a bookmark up here if I wanted. I can add a shortcut to it. So the ones I run, like this GL detail, this is one that I've saved for mutuals. It's already done. It's an operating GL detail report. I see this, I use this, right? And it's just for me, right?
So do you
Very powerful.
see in the future being able to have access, like for the finance committee, for our reports?
I think
so
the
that-
question with that is still to be determined. I certainly have a a vision for individuals to be able to see it. The challenge is, it gets expensive in NetSuite on our licenses to just regurgitate licenses. That's where Workday has unlimited view licenses, right? So some of the reporting and ability to look at like top level might be more appropriate in Workday. Certainly, and we have licenses that are budgeted for one license per board on the mutual side. So be it a treasurer or whoever wanted to go in there, which would be view only, but we need to lock the system down and there's a lot of work to do it before we can
Obviously,
roll that out.
the view only thing is very important.
Very important.
Yeah, so, I don't know if we wanna go this morning, I mean.
Well,
I mean,
first
it's
of all, I
just-
think fantastic. We're all this is really great. Again, as Nancy said, commend your staff on behalf of the Finance Committee for all the hard work, and we're looking forward to having some fun with this.
You're gonna publish these, or we can attach these in Simply so you can go in and then actually review the.
Yeah, so you're gonna have the P&L for each month for the 3 months and Q for the detail level, and you're gonna have the budget to actual for the month, for the total quarter.
Okay, great.
So 4 reports.
Yeah, those will be in Simply, then you can go back and pull those up.
And so when do you think you'll be able to attach those?
That's it.
Before the board,
Yeah, they're already done, Deborah has them.
Oh, okay.
So,
Oh, so it's just a
today,
matter of
tomorrow.
getting them
Yeah.
Yeah,
put
the
in.
next
Okay,
24
so we're not
hours.
looking at 3 weeks
No,
or
today
something.
or tomorrow.
No, they're done.
Okay.
Anything else on this?
And just real quick, this is like the end of the analytics section. So you can see like up here when we start looking at, it's gonna be really fun to start creating some of this stuff and be able to just.
It's gotta be people able to see KPIs when they walk into the screen, when they're walking in the morning and all those things. It's very, gonna be very helpful for management, I think. Anything else on this?
Out on this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just a question, in terms of where we actually are right now,
Mhm.
financially.
Adrian?
Are there any?
Adrian, can I ask you to come forward to
I'm
the,
sorry.
so I can get your voice?
Okay, are there any, issues in the financials that are
No.
questionable or?
No, I mean, I think they look really good. They look really good. There are certain things, like I said, I want to still dig into under my review, like the water and some other things. Make sure that's just a budget variance, but in terms of the income itself, yeah, I mean, I think there's no surprises. We're ahead of where I thought we'd be, but then again, I haven't looked at some of the each individual one, but I think from a total result, we're
I'm actually almost concerned that the income's too large. There's only a fine line, yeah.
Also,
yeah,
Okay,
too good to be true sometimes.
yeah.
All right.
All right. Anything on trust facilities and property maintenance capital projects?
So just a few quick notes. Pickleball project is out to bid. We have done a bid walk with a number of general contractors. We anticipate bids being back the end of June, and then we'll have a period of time to review those and make any adjustments or negotiations we need to. So should have a number. Going along with that is the relocation of the main irrigation line through that feeds the Stanley Dollar course or Dollar Ranch course. So we'll have that concurrently with the main bid for the pickleball, and that'll help us determine what the final construction phase budget would be that we'll bring forward to this committee and the board for consideration.
Jeff, how many vendors did the bid go up to?
It went out to a number, and it's also published, so others can pick it up still and
Okay.
bid. But we are anticipating at least 4 generals.
Have these 4 people built pickleball courts before? Or is this something they've never done? Or-
The actual court surface is probably the least complex portion of this. It's just more the steel structure, and so it's not a very complex project. But these are generals that we're familiar with, that we've vetted some of their work, so we think we'll get good bids.
when is the RFP close?
Towards the end of June.
Energy, so they have about a month.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then just the other projects, we're continuing, have a contract now for the replastering of the pools down at Tice, so we'll be scheduling that when appropriate. And the budgeted projects are proceeding slowly.
Okay. Next, no, any questions? The MTF transfers activity?
You wanna put that up on the?
Yeah, remember how's that? Oh, sorry.
So we're off a little bit in April from 2024. Is that a trend that we're starting to see, or is that a blip? We really need a little more time to understand. Certainly, we had good results for the first 3 months where we were trending ahead of schedule. So overall, we're still a little bit ahead of 24. But I think we need more time to really grasp if where the trend is going.
And Todd, you still have on your to-do list a breakdown of the exemptions by mutual and by exemption?
Yeah.
Is there I know it's lower than NetSuite, but is there an possible ETA on that?
I would say it's gonna be pretty quick. Sherry has bandwidth when she gets back. She's on a very well-deserved vacation this week.
Okay,
So I think her and Sophia can get together and get that out to us pretty quick.
okay,
So I would say really next week even we can get it out.
okay. If you get it early, you can send it out to us. Otherwise, we'll see at the next meeting.
Yep.
Anything else on this?
So I have a question. One of the things as I was looking at this, I can see that we're 350 ahead of, 325 ahead of where we were at last year at this time. The thing that I think I would find to be helpful was if we hit the rest of the year as we did last year, where would we end up? That total for last year isn't on here anywhere. And then to be able to kind of compare.
1,416, that's the total from last year. Is that not?
No, that's here.
I think she's
No,
looking
that's
for
year to
the
date.
year
You gotta
end.
add them up, you gotta add them up.
Yeah, so I was going,
Gotta
so
add them
how
up,
are
right.
we, I get we're 325 ahead. But even if there's just one extra column that showed, if we were to hit what we did last year or what our projection is for this year, either of those would be kind of helpful. Because you don't get a sense of the total for the year by looking at this,
5186.5 was last year.
right? But you went to another group to figure that out.
I put it into Excel.
Oh, so you did the work.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Anything else on this?
Yeah, that.
NetSuite update?
Wasn't that one?
Yeah, you guys haven't seen my Gantt chart in a while. Very exciting.
Oh, I see, okay, that one.
So it's not just NetSuite, but let's just kind of speak to, everyone kind of knows phase one, obviously we're going live with which we just spent time talking about now that we finally have financials. The other piece of this is, obviously on the top green, it's hard to read that, but I don't know why it's green. Weird. Color is different, but the first line of this region is service order, it's a purchase order configuration for vendors, projects, handyman, and continued obviously go live support. We're still finalizing everything. And then as we talked about, so we are meeting next week to start turning on vendor purchase orders. Phase two which is that next line is the statement customization, late fees, and obviously all the fixed assets into, there's a balance sheet work that we've talked about. So that's ongoing this year. So we are going to continue to customize report writing. So that's going to go throughout this year. Cloud tamers, obviously phase 2 is also we're working on how we customize property tax processing, alteration, resales, member records, escrow tracking, and then of course expand functionality, customer inquiry with employee center. And then we get into the other big NetSuite piece. It's on this gentleman's shoulders down here is obviously the field service management piece manager, which is we're configuring now. So that's going to take up the work order desk. So right now we're still using GenArc for the work order, taking in work orders. This is the piece that was always going to be a phase 2 piece. And obviously we're looking to, go live here July, first part of July on that. And then Workday Adaptive Planning, that is obviously the budgeting, financial forecasting and reporting tool. That's ongoing right now. I'm involved pretty heavily in that. And that is obviously scheduled to go live July 1 for getting us into budgeting.
So looking at this, implementation's gonna be complete at the end of August for everything?
That's just because it ends in the.
That's my question. So there's, I know, so it is
The
actually
arrow
gonna go
doesn't end.
beyond August. It's not truly gonna be done in August?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think that, there is gonna be continued, really, we're looking at everything. The goal would certainly have everything just completely tied up at the end of this year going into 2026. I think there's gonna continue to be things that show up. Certainly when we look at the field service management, going live with that in, post support, go live in July, that definitely can trickle over, come into probably September, once we, I just can't predict how smooth some of these things are going. I think because as I've extensively used Workday, I'm pretty confident on that, though there will continue to be opportunities in how we probably use it and report writing as well, but there's just there's just a lot to this, change. It's pretty much a 2-year process to change it, but as we start 2026, we're gonna be in a great place.
So this-
Adrian, sorry.
On the department work orders and the building alteration stuff, are we moving all of the original data into this in some fashion or another? So that you could go in and say, okay, here's this building, here's the work that has been done on this building over time.
You wanna take that one?
That is a great question. We're working on it, so it's a matter of seeing what we can get out of GenArc and get into NetSuite, right? But everything will be as detailed as we possibly can right now. We've got the parent as the mutual, then it goes to entry, then it goes to address, then it goes down to unit. So we should have everything. And I don't know the answer to your question, to be completely frank with you. I need to look into it.
Okay, yeah, because that's obviously one of the key issues, you're looking at a building and you're saying, well, what's been done to it so far, and trying to find that information has been, very difficult thing.
Yeah, where we can bring it in from the data we have electronically, we will.
Yeah.
The history of that actual unit going back 40 years, no. And, there's a lot of it's just paper. We're not gonna spend the time scanning or digitizing, but, obviously then, but going forward, we're gonna have accurate history on everything done to that property, that address, and that unit, right? So
on the same lines, I think the user side is much more difficult to implement over time, probably. So I know there's a lot of frustration about reservations and the fee for charging different rooms and stuff like that for booking. So at some point, can some person who's trying to book a room can see the data about which places are covered and which places are not?
We're talking about a different system altogether. So going along with the NetSuite implementation and the member data implementation on one side. On the other side of the house, and Kelsey's been working on this along with Ann, identifying systems that will then provide all of those types of services for room reservations, golf, tee times, all of the classes and so forth, that fitness, all tied to our My Ross More. So there's access. So that's in the works, it's being evaluated. We're getting close on identifying a system.
So it'll be a separate system which is linked to NetSuite.
It will link with NetSuite in terms of getting the member data. So we have one central database for all of the membership data, all the individuals, and then it will be a separate system beyond that.
Just a wild guess, estimated time? Can you?
No, I can't give you
Okay.
that.
I mean, I'm assuming a year or so, I'm assuming.
It will take time to implement and transition from those existing systems.
Yeah.
Too many pieces.
So we'd have to budget for a new system, probably 2026.
Well, it is part of the overall implementation budget of the new systems. Tied to that, and Peterson's working on the conversion for the My Ross More, and then the new marketing website that's gonna be before the board. So there's just a lot of pieces that tie together to that will be happening over the next year.
Todd, can you show us the project expenses today compared to our budget?
I mean, I can show you on the,
Not right now.
not right now.
Do you have a
The-
sense where,
Yeah,
how we
I
stand?
mean, we're still right where we're supposed to be, you know, with the amount of money. Where we're gonna have a better answer is with the 24 audit, making sure that we have everything classified, that's capitalized versus expensed. Obviously, getting through April, we have a lot of invoice and a lot of work going on this last month. In terms of the total budget, you know, the 544 that we had left in capital, you know, that is basically accounted for. You know, there will be money that's in there that can go to the, you know, the ultimate software solution that we're looking at, but we don't know what that is gonna cost. But certainly there's gonna be a financial recap on what we spent to date. I would say that number is really something we should look at after Q2, just because we're gonna have the audit numbers and we're gonna be able to have the 24 final so we can compare it all to budget.
Did you even expect a large variant one way or the other? Or
No.
we're pretty close, you think?
No, I think we're gonna be good. I don't see a large variance.
Okay.
Anything else on this? If not, any update from the planning committee?
You'll see the planning committee is gonna have a pretty full plate moving forward. We'll be discussing the food and beverage study in phase 2, especially related to the lease agreement with Creekside and what that looks like moving forward. There will be discussions certainly about next phases of study and consideration related to the property outside the gate at 1220, formerly known as the Medical Center, related to MOD, related to other components. So just a lot going to be brought forward in their realm here in the next year.
Okay.
Can you remind me who's, we've had changes in personnel on the board, who's in charge of the planning committee now, or is that yet to be determined?
Will be announced tomorrow, but I can tell you, let me see here. Let me get to the board packet, one moment. 29. You would like the in total, everyone on the committee or the chair?
Oh, you could give me everybody but and the chair.
Absolutely. Okay, planning, the chair will be Dwight Walker. Also on the committee, Ted Bentley, Adrian Byram, and Janet Selden.
Cool, thank you.
Absolutely welcome.
Okay, I don't think there's any unfinished business, so next is the new business on the lift.
So over the last couple of months, we've been talking and planning, regarding adding Lyft Business to the Saturday, or the Saturday and Sunday transportation service to subsidize, transportation, while we are currently on Monday through Friday. And so Lyft Business has two different programs. I'll just do a quick little overview. Concierge, which will provide, transportation service through Lyft, with assistance from our dispatch office in the transportation department. And Lyft Task would be completely self-scheduled through the Lyft app. So it'll accommodate those that have the smartphone and the Lyft app while also assisting those that do not have access. So with that, we do have some cost parameters that we're looking at for the subsidy. So this would just be Monday through, or Saturday and Sunday, not weekday service, 8 AM to 6 PM. Taking a look at our rides, we would like to have it just to and from the community within a 5-mile radius of the gates. So not necessarily the individual homes, but the gates to make it equal for all of the residents. And then an additional parameter of up to $20 just to put an additional bumper on the subsidy. Typically for all of the rides that are within that time frame and that distance, it could range from $5 to $20, so that's why we put the $20 on that. It would only be 2 times per day, so 2 one-way or 1 two-way round trip. Why do I always forget that, Jeff? Jeez. And then taking a look at our GoGo grandparents. So we currently have GoGo grandparents that does the subsidy through Lyft and Uber. So we are able to look at I get a good idea of how much it would cost. And for our weekday service, our weekend service between those hours and within the 5 miles, it's $11.32. So it's really right in the middle of that $5 and $20. So that's what we anticipate that it would generally be for each ride in comparison to what our previous service, which average was about $17.
So when you say subsidies, entirely subsidized?
So subsidized within that parameter, so
Right.
within the 5 miles up to the $20, and then it has to be to and from. So that's currently how GoGo Grandparents is operating, that it has to be to and from the community. And so we'll keep the same kind of parameters that we do for GoGo.
So we believe that it will provide a complete subsidy, but Lyft and Uber, their rates vary depending on the demand and time. So in case there is, you wanna go at very, very peak time and it happens to be $25, the member would be responsible for the additional $5. But the most part, it would fund the full subsidy.
So why are we looking at this rather than just staying with GoGo?
So this one, Lyft Business, there are a couple of perks with it. We give our staff the ability to schedule, and also with the Lyft Business, there are no additional fees on top of anything. So it'd be the same as if someone would schedule on their own, it would just be facilitated by us and subsidized through us. GoGo is a third party that we are connected with. They do have a little bit of additional fees that they charge since they are booking on someone's behalf. This way we would be booking, or the resident would be booking. So it gives them control over doing it themselves. GoGo, no matter what, you have to call into GoGo and have them schedule it for you. This gives anyone that has the app the ability to do it on their own. And then a lot of people are very familiar with our transportation staff. They call them, they're comfortable with them. So it would give our staff the opportunity to also assist rather than relying on the GoGo grandparent staff to do it.
So this is to replace GoGo grandparents. Why would decommission GoGo grandparents?
At the moment, it would just be for the weekend service to subsidize. Right now, we do subsidize with GoGo during, since we're outside. But this way, it would give the residents a little more control, and then our staff the ability to also assist.
So we will have both programs if we will approve this one.
Well, not really. So our history has been with transportation that with our own system, we offer service 7 days a week with our staff, our buses. as we've continued to really struggle to maintain a staffing level that allows us to be fully staffed with bus drivers to offer that service, we haven't been able to deliver the weekend. So we've suspended weekend service. GoGo is an option for residents. Also what's the Easy Rider program is an option. This really is moving forward instead of those options, instead of us planning on in the future bringing back transit with our staff, this would take that place. It allows people to schedule their own rides using an app. If they have that technology, they're comfortable in doing that. If they're not comfortable in doing that, they could call in advance and we can schedule it for them. It takes out the service fees associated with GoGo, so it's a little more feasible. But basically, we are going to be using our budgeted resources instead of planning on offering through our normal, what we planned on. We will be offering this subsidy and it's open to all residents.
So in terms of, I understand this pilot program, I mean, starting it the first time. So in terms of comparative financial costs in the long run, if this pilot program succeeds, is it possible to save some money to extend it to all the week?
I don't think you would be moving this towards all the week, but we are right now looking at our service model using our current buses and our current way we dispatch and looking at modifying those so it is more convenient. So there's a lot going on parallel to this. This action today really is looking at just the weekend service.
Because the weekday service has a lot of fixed costs involved in it, right? In terms of
The transportation cost is a big budget, right? The whole transportation department. So eventually, I think we did a study, right? There must be some plan to implement improvement and changes. So how does this work with the City of Walnut Creek program that they give senior citizens, use of Lyft, and you only pay $5 per ride? Why are we not taking more advantage of that?
Every resident is more than welcome to take advantage of signing up with the city. They get grant funding to do that program through Measure J. So they have limitations on how many folks they can accommodate and for, it's till the resources run out. But any of you are welcome to sign up for the city's program and utilize those resources in addition to what we offer.
They actually, I think they're not just solely, relying on the grant. At the beginning, they were. Now they actually ask the participant to pay an annual fee of $75. And then they get 2 rides a day of Lyft within the City of Walnut Creek. And all they have to pay is $5. And I wonder whether there is an opportunity for us to kind of take advantage of that. For example, if you pay the resident who has the needs, that's $75, of enrollment fee. Would there be more residents willing to use that program?
So I think our goal here is to provide a service that is very user-friendly, accessible by all residents, that any resident that is paying into the system can easily utilize. Relying on the city's program and services certainly can be a benefit to those that utilize it a lot, but separately, we've always had transit services. This is something that residents could access on their own. But they can supplement it with what the city has to offer as well.
I have a question about GoGo Grandparent, because many people use GoGo Grandparent during the week, and I think the limit is 100 miles, something like that.
It's, they can use it for anything. They can schedule a ride. For them to get the subsidy, it has to be to and from the community, and it's outside of our service hours. And it's only within our service outside of our service area. So on the weekdays, it would be, typically we close 6 o'clock on the weekdays. So we would subsidize after 6. And then on the weekends, it would subsidize during the times we would typically have our service, which was 8 to 4.
From the residents' point of view, when they call GoGo Grandparent, are they going to have to distinguish any information they provide, or will in other words, GoGo Grandparent will?
Yep.
Anybody can call anytime?
Yes, so it'll automatically apply. They do have their dispatchers that they have the parameters of that we've set with them, and it applies it automatically.
So it's based on the hours that people request, not more than that or less than that?
It's just whenever our service is not available. So if it's outside of our service during the week, so we wouldn't want them to use it when we have the option of the bus service. So it's on the weekends when we don't have service and after hours of our service.
Or if you're going like to the airport.
Yeah.
Because it's outside our service area.
Yeah, and then it just subsidizes
Okay.
The
the first.
$10,
Yeah, the
yeah.
rest then is the responsibility of the resident.
So I live at the back of the valley. It is very hard to get a Lyft driver or an Uber driver to come back there and pick you up. By having this agreement with Lyft, is that gonna get better? It's interesting, if you do it through GoGo Grandparent, they come back there.
Yeah, that's right.
But I'm wondering if that will help with Lyft going back there.
So I think it's a third-party provider, and certainly we can't dictate the level of service that they provide and their willingness to come in. I think the more the demand builds up through this program, then it'll demonstrate to them that it's beneficial to have vehicles in the area. But service providers that are focused downtown don't necessarily want to come to Rossmore to go from, say, your address to the fitness center.
That's right.
But if they start getting a high level of demand in here, then they'll see a business opportunity to provide that service.
So
But we can't,
Require them.
we can't require, we can't, guarantee it. It is really, we're providing access to a third party.
But I mean, even if you're going outside of Rossmore, like it's, if you want to go into downtown Walnut Creek, it is very hard to get a Lyft or Uber driver to pick you up in the back of the valley. If you're starting in Walnut Creek and you're coming this way, it's much easier. But, if you want them to pick you up at your house, it's really hard to get somebody, somebody will take the ride and then they cancel and no one else picks it up. And so I'm a little concerned about how that will work. And if there's some way to encourage them through this program.
Yeah,
That
we
would be
will
great.
definitely encourage them, and Kelsey's been working on relationships with them. And maybe through the business account, they might be more willing, but again, we have some limitations on what we could require.
Because the individual drivers are the ones who decide whether or not they're gonna come back,
Right.
right?
But they can cancel it.
Where's the 5 mile, where is 5 miles from here?
So I did a couple of searches with it. So it's going to start at the gate. So not the individual manners, but it'll be at the gate to have everyone have the equal distance. 5 miles is about to Ruth Bancroft Gardens. It goes pretty far. And so it depends on the location, how much it'll be. Typically as far as 5 miles will take you would be $18 to $23, $20. So
Well, is Lafayette 5 miles from here?
Yeah, it's part of Lafayette. Does it go as far as Shaylin? You said Bancroft, Shaylin.
Yep, it's within. Mhm, it's within.
That's good because
So Jeff, just to clarify, this is stuff is already budgeted. We're just moving from pocket A to pocket B.
Exactly.
And maybe a little bit of savings come out of it, but
Exactly.
it's basically already in the budget, moving from pocket A to pocket B.
Yeah, we're not asking for any additional operating resources. We think that long-term, this will be more of a savings, but some of those savings, again, we're gonna look at when we propose some modifications to the weekday service to enhance that. So it's within the budget, but it is kind of moving from pocket A to pocket B.
Is the thinking then that for the weekday service, when we go to the potentially go to the smaller units, that would not be available on the weekends?
No.
And the reason?
But again, you need since the pandemic, we have had a real struggle in hiring bus drivers with Class A or Class B licenses. So could we potentially, if we go to a smaller vehicle that doesn't have the same licensing, maybe we have better success hiring, but this is a proposal to completely move in that direction, so we wouldn't have our.
So Jeff, since we stopped the weekend services, have we realized that surplus in our budget?
Yes.
Okay, so like you said, it's the money covering from one part to the other, which is fine. However, I do think the projection of usage based on history may not be too low, because once you open it up to everybody and the advantage is there, even I myself use Lyft for the evening, you know, and people will use it even if they don't, so you will have more usage. So the projected number may be low.
Yeah, I mean, this will certainly will have the remainder of this year, once this is fully in place and the guidelines, we do the registration. We will learn a lot of data going into next year's budget. But we believe that for sure this year, we have the resources to cover the expense.
Just one more thing is if the Lyft, which you could use your app as opposed to going through GoGo Grandparent. If it didn't work and people didn't do it, there's still the alternative of GoGo Grandparent, so that we're not tying it to Lyft has to work for people.
So there won't be GoGo Grandparent on the weekends, right?
No.
If you have this program.
Yeah, we won't have dual programs.
Okay.
So the resident gets a separate app from the regular Lyft app, or they use the regular app, but they register in a certain way?
Right, so once they register, we send out a link to them, and the link automatically adds the daily subsidy to the Lyft app. It just reloads every day. It doesn't compound, it just reloads each day that it's available, and it goes straight to their Lyft app. Is when you look in the payment options, there is an option for Lyft Pass, and as long as the ride is within the parameters, it automatically loads and covers the amount. So they don't have to do anything. As long as that pass is on the app, it'll just automatically apply it to the rides that meet the parameters. They don't have to do anything different.
So are we booking a payable with that, or sending out cash, or how does that work?
So they would invoice, same that GoGo does. It would be an invoice in that we would pay it monthly.
Okay, so we send out the $20 to anybody that has the app, and that amount, regardless of whether it's used, is invoiced?
So it'll be whatever amount the resident used. We will only get billed for what is actually used, not specifically, not specifically the $20 every month. It's whatever the residents and how much they use. That at the end of the month, they'll bill us in the same way that we have GoGo at the moment. We are billed every month for what is actually used.
So I'm confused, sorry. So if I want to go to the airport on Saturday afternoon, GoGo will not be available to me? Or it will be available because it's outside the 5-mile radius?
So I think our goal is to move away from GoGo to a more feasible system within this that would give you the ability to then schedule that ride. It's just your subsidy would be the $20.
Through them, okay.
You would be responsible for anything beyond.
So if you went beyond that, you still can go beyond $20, but you get no more than $20.
Right, that's a good limit. You know, GoGo Grandparent does have an extra charge if you go any farther distance. The $10 subsidy is not going to cover, you know, it's not going to benefit you. But of course, you know, Kim, you have a different problem. You cannot get ride at your house, and GoGo can help you get a ride. Yeah, but that's a different issue. But in terms of cost, if you go to the airport, using GoGo Grandparent will cost you a lot more because they add a certain amount per mile. Okay, last I checked was 3 cents per mile. They may be different now.
So in the future, if someone wanted to go to the airport and they use the Lyft app, regardless of how far they went, they would still get the $20 discount?
So, once they exit the 5 mile radius, whatever is additional after that
They pay
is
on their own.
automatically charged to the credit card.
Okay.
That's on their Lyft account.
Okay.
So they still have the $20 benefit. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, Ted?
So I have a question. I always thought that this was for people who had difficulties transporting from one point to another. And it sounds like we're gonna open this up to every resident who's now gonna get a discount when they gotta go to the airport. Like if I don't wanna drop my car off at the airport, is that true? I mean, I can use Lyft now and Jared or RWC is gonna give me $20 to my bill just because I don't wanna drive to the airport?
Yep.
I just wanna
But
clarify.
that's the way
But just-
go-go
just for the
grandparent
weekend.
always was.
Just for the weekend though.
So the,
That's
Only for the
why I
weekend.
said the usage will
Well, yeah,
really
let's clarify
spike.
that. Is it
Yeah.
just on the weekend or is it any time on that? Let's
No,
clarify.
no, I get it. It's on, let's just say it is on the weekend.
Okay.
That's what we're talking about. But my question is this for, I thought we always did this for people who had issues with getting from point A to point B. And now I'm hearing that we're gonna do this for everybody who needs a lift and I'm gonna cut my cost to the airport in half. It's $45 at the airport. I get to now get $20 back from
This program.
here because that's what I'm used for. I just wanna know why, I understand why we have the bus service on the weekend or had it on the weekends for people who can't drive and can't get around, and that's what this is supposed to be for, but it sounds like now we're gonna open up to 10,000 residents.
Go-go grandparent was always that way.
so
And so is the bus
So
service.
let's answer the question. There is no current restrictions on being able to register for GoGo Grandparent. So all residents can do that. It's not income based. It's not if you have a driver's license or not, or a vehicle or not. This program very much the same and the same as with our current bus system. It is open to all residents. It's funded by all residents. All residents can participate in this program based on the limitations that we've put, that Kelsey talked about, the $20, a maximum of 2 trips per day. Within the subsidy only applies within that 5-mile radius. And then anything outside of that becomes the responsibility of the resident.
But it would not, you could not use Lyft Monday through Friday.
Correct.
Right now.
So when would the subsidy start?
8 AM to 6 PM on the weekends.
Okay. Just Saturday and Sunday?
Yes.
Whereas GoGo Grandparent is anytime.
24 hours a day.
No, it's not
No,
anytime.
also outside.
It's only outside our normal service hours. So it was, we operate Monday through Friday, our bus service. So the idea with GoGo was any service that people require outside of that. We don't want to subsidize somebody to use GoGo when we have a bus available.
Oh.
Right? So it's just outside the normal service.
Yeah, I remember during the budget process, we detailed on a per resident basis the amount of the coupon that goes to each service. Jeff, do you happen to recall the total amount that we're paying for the transportation service and how much each resident pays for that? And also how many residents are benefiting from that? Do you know those numbers?
So it's like
I think it's 16.
16 and change per man or per month is the portion that goes towards transportation.
And the overall cost is what?
I think 2 million plus, right?
No, it's
Well,
about
so
We
16.
1.1
should be
million.
able to multiply
12
that, yeah.
times
12 times
6,500.
10,600.
We know it's an expensive per ride.
That's residents, not manners. It's per man.
The total budget's about 1.1 million.
Yes, it is. I have it.
It's a lot of money.
Transit is an expensive operation.
Yes. It's good.
Yeah, and it's, I guess someday I'll get to the point where it's worth it to me to pay $16 a month for the service. Because there's few residents that use it, you know, but every resident pays quite a bit for
So
that.
there are still a lot I mean, there is quite a few that use it. We're taking about 40,000 rides a year on the system currently, one-way trips. But what we want to do is make this more accessible to all residents, so it's attractive. So if you want to go dine downtown, you can take a Lyft if you want to utilize on the weekend. We're looking at additional modifications during the week, so it's more attractive to folks that don't just need and rely on it, but for those that may want to utilize it
Yeah.
in the valley.
Good response, yeah.
Okay, anything else on this? Any other further discussion?
Just that I could immediately share any of those numbers in NetSuite if you.
Do you want to make a
I
motion?
don't have anything in front of me. I didn't know
Is
I was
there-
gonna be on this
I can read
meeting,
the
so I
motion
can't.
aloud.
And
Okay.
by the way, remember, you're taking our spot, you become the official motion maker going forward.
Beyond my
Yeah,
capacity.
yeah, how could anybody replace that?
So this is in consideration to recommend to the RWC board to proceed with a partnership with Lyft Business to implement both Lyft Concierge and Lyft Pass services as a way to provide weekend transportation for residents. Anything else need to be added to that, Kelsey, in the motion?
We did passing the word about pilot, in our conversation. Are we considering a time for this trial period? Is it a pilot program? Or is it, once we approved it, it will work until we, cancel it?
Yeah, we're not looking at it as just a brief pilot. This would be the transportation services offered by Rossmore
Yeah,
moving forward
okay,
for the weekends.
all right, so it is a permanent program until we cancel it, right? So, okay, so I just want to make sure that the motion has all those thing,
But it is replacing,
the weekend service.
it was replacing the weekend service of the
Yes.
grandparent,
Right,
whatever
right.
that is.
Okay, okay,
Also move.
okay,
So we have a maker of the motion, Mary
Is
Hurd.
there a second?
I can second it.
Any further discussion? If not, Deborah, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Certainly Ring,
Yes.
Lau,
Yes,
Castillo,
Yes.
Singh,
Yes.
Star,
Yes.
and Hurd.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Any further new business?
So that will go in the Rossmore News and people will know about this.
so I think there's that one article at least on the news.
Yeah,
about
there
that.
will be a rollout. It will take some time to start getting registrations, but Kelsey has a whole packet for registration and so forth that we'll start promoting.
Okay, otherwise, we're adjourned. We'll see you all next month.
Thank you.